Shut up and sit down.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Nerdsplaining Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Da Silva. With me as always, my co-host, Jose Romero.
Greetings and salutations, nerds around the world. Second show of the new year, 2025. Getting off at a good start, maybe, right? I think so.
I think this has been a good week. It's been a good week.
Not a lot to talk about. We're going to
Not a
go
lot,
over
but-
some of the shows that, a couple of nerd shows just ended, give our thoughts on those. We got some Daredevil trailer, which popped up. Surprising. I thought they might wait till close to Super Bowl, but I guess not.
Super Bowls for a Fantastic Four, my
that's a
friend.
good point. And of course, and today, since it was a light news day, there's not much to talk about that. But we are going to do our own Mount Rushmore of 80's films, specifically sci-fi adventure and comedies, narrowing down to the top 4 of the decade. A great decade, a decade for nerd stuff for sure. We got some differences of opinions, which is good discussions and all that. But we'll get into all that, of course. But let's get started with a couple of shows that we talked briefly when it came out, but we never really kind of circled back because they weren't that level of show, right? I thought it was worthy, at least anyway for me anyway. But I enjoyed both of them. The first one, Skeleton Crew, which was not the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Not, but here, contrary to most Star Wars, fun.
Yes, it started off well. I liked it, and again, it's more geared for a younger audience, so I get it. And
Yeah,
there's kind of
absolutely.
things which are good and bad about the show, but ultimately that's his goal, and it succeeded in that goal, right? So that's what it was aiming for, right? So
Absolutely.
aiming for adults, it failed. It's not doing that. But listen, this is one I enjoyed it. I mean, it was good, and again, not great. This isn't the greatest thing I've ever seen, but compared to the standards that Star Wars has set, which I understand it's a low bar, it's
disagree.
Good.
I think this is so good that Kathleen Kennedy should retire on this legacy.
Listen,
Skeleton
you have my
Crew.
vote, no doubt about
Take
that.
it.
But
This is as close as a win as you're going to get, lady.
And I wish,
So,
unfortunately, and this is not the first time like Andor's example of a show we thought was great, which nobody watched.
Right.
The Nielsen ratings came out on this one, and it didn't even chart.
and that's a bummer, man, because like I said, it was a really fun, brisk, like no party made you go, hey! It was like, oh, cool. It made me feel like I was watching a Goonies.
Yeah, that was the vibe it was going for, and it hit it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Literally pirates, treasure map, the whole thing. If you didn't watch it, you missed out. Watch it. All the episodes are available. Jude Law does a
He's
really
good.
fun job of like that. People don't overlook the like to be able to play a bad guy who's not hateable, like sort of like a fun bad guy. It really, because if you go Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean, you're really more of an anti-hero. Sure. Jude Law is not an anti-hero. He is the bad guy. And spoiler alert, but he is the bad guy. And he's a fun bad guy. And it's so you're like, but he has a moral code, but it's way down in there.
Yeah, it's coded, all right.
Like, he has a line.
There is a line. You're right. There's a line. Yes.
He's a thief, not a murderer. He'll kill if he's gotta, but he doesn't wanna. He's more of a thief. You'd rather just
he's
steal.
A pirate, right? Pirates do.
He's a pirate.
Yeah, listen. I mean, it sucks. I mean, obviously nobody watched the show. That's unfortunate, but I don't know if that's a result of just people the credit lost in Star Wars. I'm not giving it a shot because I've been burned so many times, which is possible. 2, it looked like a kid's show, so I'm sure that has something to do with it as well. Potentially, I don't know, but it wasn't very watching. It's a shame, right? So this isn't the go on the blaze of glory. We hope Kathleen Kennedy will leave on, but listen, overall, the ending I gotta say was good. Like, it was a solid ending as far as the final episode.
It's a solid ending.
And
it left it open. There was
potential
for more
stuff.
stuff.
Meant to be that, I don't know, but it could have tied up some loose ends or given us something. But I guess a minor complaint.
I think they left it open on purpose.
Maybe.
My personal call. I think
nobody
they left
watches,
it
so
open on purpose.
we're not gonna get a second season. I'll be surprised. Maybe they do. But
Look, this is happening circa The Mandalorian. Jude Law, his character is kind of open-ended to this. He could very easily show up in The Mandalorian.
I guess. But in terms of, I don't know. Again, the viewership doesn't warrant. There's a reason why they didn't renew.
I mean, listen, you get Jude Law, you're going to use him for a bunch of stuff. Even nobody watched it. You put him everywhere.
Maybe.
So
but again,
there
no
you
one
go.
knows who he is and who cares.
Right.
But it's unfortunate. But listen, it was a solid show. I liked the kids and the story was cool. And the special effects weren't great. At times, it seemed a little
I thought it was good
It was
for
good
what they
enough.
were doing.
It was good enough. Right.
Right. It was good enough for
Correct.
what they were
But
doing.
it's not
Exactly.
like, oh my god, and it's not
Oh,
Andor
no.
level. But then again, they spent like, I don't know, 300
Yeah.
million or whatever it was for the show.
And there was art. This was fun.
It's a
Two
fun
very different
change of pace,
barometers.
and we don't get to say that
Right.
often with Star Wars shows. Let's be honest, right? That's
Sure.
for sure. So this is one of the better ones. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun. I said definitely, if you're a Star Wars, if you didn't give it a shot, give it a shot. You might like it, particularly with kids and family.
Yeah.
You got kids, you know how it is.
I would put this in the, if you like Star Wars, you should watch this pile. Like, you know, like some stuff is kind of like iffy, some is like definite, and there's a lot in the nose.
I mean, out of the
this is
shows,
definitely in the yes
this
pile.
is,
like you
know, I mean, it's not Andor, but it's better than half the stuff, more than half the stuff we've gotten.
Absolutely.
Right. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, low bar, but I enjoyed it. Very, very fun show. Another one, which we both liked when it came out, didn't love it, was Creature Commandos. The soft opening for DCU, right? Not
very
soft. We
soft.
know that.
Yes.
This is
Very
in the
soft.
universe. We know it, but let's be honest, Superman is where things take off. But yeah, so kind of a soft opening.
Absolutely.
It was kind of a Suicide Squad vibe, which we all knew that going into it. I enjoyed
Right.
the first couple episodes when it came out, when we talked about it. And this show I thought got better. It's still not great for me, but it got better, and it's some really cool stuff here. Right, a lot of the
Really cool
backstories was really well done. Surprisingly moving in some particular, like with Weasel, for example, that was really cool.
I thought Dr. Phosphorus
Phosphorus is
was
another one. Yeah.
Dr. Phosphorus came really close to Joel Schumacher level fun. Like I was like, "Arr!" Like the whole dance sequence where they're glowing in the dark makeup, and I was like, you know what, this is so close. When they showed Batman, I was like, if he shows up with nipples, this is it. It's a wrap.
He may have. I didn't get the pause and look at it closely. But it had a lot of good stuff behind it. It was funny. It was entertaining. Good story set up for a second season, of course, while closing the first season, right? You know.
I will say, I felt that the last episode was a little, I don't want to use the word anticlimactic, but I wanted a little bit more.
That's fair.
And I felt like too to the point.
That's fair.
You know? And also, did you ever watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
No.
Okay, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and people watch, or our age, watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force during the Adult Swim days. There were the Moonanites. There were these 8-bit aliens who were just douchebags. And at one point, they crash land their ship onto like the Aqua Teen Hunger Force's neighbor's Carl's car. Their ship crash landed, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And the Moonanites go, "Don't look back. Just go. Just go." And I was like, I'm watching the end of Creature Commandos. I'm like, are they the Moonanites? Because that's how they kind of like just keep going, just walk the look. And I was like, that's exactly what the Moonanites did. I was like, it's funny, but I because of like how Suicide Squad ended, I was like, give me a little.
No, that's fine.
Little,
that's fair. Like I said, it was a good show. Again, it was not a great show. It was
good.
Not great, but you know,
right.
It's a good show. In the DC,
some great character moments. Great
DC's
character
done
moments.
really well with the TV stuff, more so than the films in the last 5-10 years.
The surprising death. It actually got me.
It
bummed me out a little bit.
Went down, so consistent with what James Gunn has done with Suicide Squad. And there's stakes, right? People are going down, which is cool. I like this. It was good fun. I love David Harbour as the Frankenstein.
David Harbour. His character did nothing for the series, and I want more of
exactly. He's a funny character. You could have taken him out. I agree with that, but he's still cool as shit at the end of the day. Listen, if you're gonna put something necessary, at least make it entertaining, right?
If you ever wondered what would Frankenstein be like if he was autistic and a sociopath? This is a Frankenstein for you.
That was pretty cool. Him and Rick Flag, and that was really. Listen, it's a fun show. It's not a great show, but it's a fun show. For a soft opening, okay, it's a good start. I mean, this again, I don't think it has an effect down the road. This could have sucked, and we wouldn't have cared in the big picture, right? It's like who cares as long as Superman hits, whatever, right?
But I will say, and I think we talked about this before, the country they're in is the country that kid is saying, "Help us, Superman." In the trailer, that's that country. And so it explains why the country's in that situation because of the end of Creature Commandos.
With the show.
Right, so there's very, like, you don't have to know it to get it, but since you get it, like, oh, cool,
exactly.
I know how that happened.
World, and it's part of that. I mean, we're going to get Rick Flag, the live version, with,
right.
Oh my God, I forgot his name, but
Frank Grillo.
Yeah, he's going to be in it, and same Rick Flag character. So there's going to be some correlation, and he mentioned that some of the animated shows could be live action as well, keeping the same actors.
Well, I thought that was like the goal. Like it's not should be. It's like everyone who does live act with this animated, they're going to be doing the live action version.
Some of them
Granted,
died. What up?
whoa! And also, there's some people they hadn't cast yet, like Sergeant Rock. You see in the cartoon, and they just announced the Sergeant Rock movie, and so they hadn't really figured out who's going to be that now. So like that was, but also Sergeant Rock is so minute in the series. There's no way to. So yeah,
he wasn't a big deal.
But it was cool to see him, and I was like, "Oh, they just finished talking about it, and there he is." So they're laying that groundwork.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So it's finally we're getting because it's funny because I think the announcement of all this stuff was in 2023, right? So 2 years later, here we are getting some of the stuff. We're gonna get Superman.
Yeah.
Supergirl just started filming this month, so that's coming out next year. So
right.
I'm not sure.
Did you see the Jason Momoa videos of him in the gym? I was like, "This is awesome. Do it! Like you were born to be Lobo, buddy. Just go for it."
Hopefully Superman. Supergirl doesn't matter. Superman sucks. This is Hollywood is right. So I'll focus on Superman. We'll figure out the rest later. But it is filming, so at least now we're getting another movie coming out, right?
And I will say, I know all the pressure is on Superman, but the Supergirl story that they're basing this movie off of is so good that I really hope it's good
much
too.
Dark. I think it'll be much different.
So good.
It should be, from the story. Should be than the Superman.
It's not as dark. It's not dark as Superman. Right. It is a different tone because it is almost like have you ever seen True Grit? Yeah. That is what the Supergirl story is. It's True Grit in space, and she is the John Wayne character.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit. It's not gonna be a different kind of Superman than we've seen, right? Or at least with the comics or shows or Supergirl stuff. Whatever.
Well, Supergirl. It'd be different.
So I'm looking forward to it, and we got Super Bowl's about 3 weeks away, more or less. So that trailer doesn't drop. I'd really be shocked if it doesn't. I think it'd be a huge mistake if they don't drop a trailer. I really do.
They're definitely gonna drop a Fantastic Four trailer. That once again, we know. And I think a Superman. I think maybe the same trailer or a slightly more extended cut of it is gonna happen.
Technically a teaser. Fine. We see it all the time. They do. Right.
It was a movie trailer setting the vibe.
This would be the perfect time to drop it. I think it'd be a huge misfire if they don't.
But I think you're being very greedy because we all know, for people who watch the show, Jose only does one trailer for a movie and that's it. So you just want to knock that trailer out so you can stop watching. And I'm going to be there hounding all the information like a geek in a all-you-can-eat buffet.
Understood, but I get that first trailer.
Teaser never counts. Teaser's foreplay. It doesn't count. It just lets you know you're there.
This is the one that we're looking forward to. So we'll see. But speaking of trailers, the big one drops. I know a big one for you, as you are a huge fan, and that's of course Daredevil: Born Again. And we're waiting for this for a while. Getting its trailer, and I mean we know you're gonna like it. I liked it. Very cool. I am worried because I know people say, "Oh, dark and all that." Just because it's gore, now doesn't make it dark. It's not the same thing, right? It is not. To be fair, Echo showed us some dark stuff too, and look how that turned out. But it promised the blood and all that stuff. It was there. And we were all talking about.
It was a drop of blood.
Right. It's
Did
nice
you see that bloody nose?
Really cool. People are gonna get fooled by Kingpin because they even said he's buried in the show. So we got what we got for Kingpin, and why put him on the show because we saw it all for the most part. So if you.
I feel like Kingpin is going to be one of those. He'll appear in the beginning, the middle, and the end.
So don't expect a Daredevil on Netflix with him as in the forefront. He's not going to be there. And they said that, right?
The big bads are going to be the Muse, and it's going to be Bullseye. Those are the two real big bads.
In the trailer, they look very cool.
Which
we got. I don't know what. Well, I guess it's funny because he's not. He's not Daredevil. He's not performing his Daredevil acts according to we saw the trailer, and I guess he gave up the sticks or whatever, right? Something like that. Yeah, okay. Billy Clubs. I'm not sure.
The Billy Clubs. Right. Yeah.
I don't know. You may know. I don't know.
Listen, there's been a lot of leaked footage out of context.
Who knows?
Maybe somebody died. Maybe he crossed the line and killed somebody. Who knows?
Sure, we saw John Barenthal here. That's always
sure. Yeah. And if you remember, really early on, when they were still before they even did the reboot of everything for this, they were talking about there was a storyline where there was a bunch of dirty cops who had co-opted the Punisher iconography to create like their own gang on the streets. and that's where Daredevil finds Punisher. He kind of brings them in. He's like, I need to take these guys off the board first, and Frank's like, they're taking my side, and so that's that's like a mini boss that they got to do, and then move out of the way, get big bad bosses.
It looked really good for whatever that's worth, right? We've seen good trailers be sucking, sucky trailers be good as far as the show. So the fight scenes look really cool.
Look good too.
I like the brutality of it, for sure.
They look better than they did in Echo. I'll tell you that.
It's definitely been Echo, and I think we're getting a more traditional Netflix Daredevil than the atrocity we saw in She-Hulk. I know some people liked it, but it's not the same character.
Yes. Oh no, that was just fun.
But it's not what we're getting here. Clearly,
I don't really.
Thank God.
Right. More
that may
more
have been
Netflix,
the direction they were going
She-Hulk.
before, which is what I was screaming up to high heaven about.
Oh, I agree. Like I was cool with that Daredevil being in She-Hulk because they went out of their way to go, look, yellow costume, different city, it's got a whole different vibe. You go in New York, you wear yellow, you're gonna get stabbed by everybody. Even the heroes are stabbing you. Like,
listen, it looked really cool. It really did. It looked very promising. I'm March 4th, I think March 8th, around there. March 4th.
March 4th.
A month and a half away. The Super Bowl.
Right after the Super Bowl, man. It's like literally like 2 weeks after the Super Bowl.
And like I said, I forget how many episodes. I hope it's not 30 minutes.
I heard 9 episodes, like 45 minutes to an hour each.
I mean, I want a true 45 minutes. I don't want this because we got 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want that Netflix 45. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Skeleton Crew. I said 41 or 40, around there, and by 34 minutes it ended. I was like, there's 7 minutes of credits. I mean, come on. Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. But they always do that.
Well, there's a lot of international markets you got to take care of, Jose. You can't just all the credits. You got to show everybody.
You're going to get a true 42, 43-minute show. You can have 80 minutes of credits for all I care, right? Fine.
Well, here's the thing. It is, if you see 50 minutes,
that's what
it's
I'm
actually
saying,
42
if you look at it, it has to be between 50 and 55, right? Like when you show it, and we know it's going to be 44, 40. Great, fine, no problem. It was like 30 is bullshit. It'd be nonsense. I'm going to be so scared. They haven't released that yet. They always do release the running times a few weeks before the show starts, so we'll get to know. But look, it looked really cool. So I know you're excited. I'm sure you were like giggling like this. For sure. Yeah.
Super excited, man. Super excited.
Yeah.
Costume looks good. I just that whole dynamic conversation. I'm such a nerd for movies and comics. I love double entendre dialogue that serves a purpose for the story, but it's also like a wink and a nod to the fans watching. I love that. So the whole conversation and them in the diner, them talking about thanks for making time to see me because I'll admit it's not entirely horrible seeing you again. I was like, yeah, this is like calling a Spider-Man movie Homecoming. This is great. I'm all for that.
D'Onofrio as Kingpin. So hopefully it's the version we want to see. Because even Echo here was okay.
Yeah.
Better than what we saw in Hawkeye, which was the worst iteration of the character. But no. Yeah.
I actually liked it more in Hawkeye than in Echo.
Neither one was good. Was good as we know it to be. So hopefully it's back to form, right? That's what you want because he's such a good character. He's such a great villain. He really is.
Right.
So yeah, looking forward to it. Except we'll definitely be breaking this down weekly on this one for sure.
Wouldn't it be great if while talking to Daredevil, those hologram sign language hands showed up around Kingpin the whole time? It's like, oh, I'm sorry, this is the wrong person. I'll remove these.
But that said, like I said, that's not, that's pretty much the using the stuff, some good stuff in here for the week. But it's time.
That's the news.
We're gonna travel back to a time when big hair, the hair bands, Ronald Reagan and the excess and all that stuff. The 80s, man, the 80s.
All you had to worry about was nuclear bombs and communism. That's all you had to worry about back then.
All good, it was a special time. One-hit wonders galore. Not that that's changed a whole lot.
Sure.
But yeah, listen, but movie-wise, there's a lot of good stuff in the 80s. More so, I think people give credit for. To be honest with you. A lot of franchises which still exist now,
In terms of like just going for it, really good ideas. 80s is it, man.
Spielberg was at his peak during that time. He was the greatest director of all time.
Yeah.
Comedians, Eddie Murphy was reigning over the 80s during that time. Of course, the action film, it was 80s, but Schwarzenegger, Stallone, back and forth. I mean, there's a lot of good shit here.
Oh yeah, dude, it was
Die Hard.
Die Hard, 80s baby. baby. I mean, we're like, it's so like stuff that's considered like
Yes.
legacy franchises now started as a one hit.
Exactly.
Like,
And,
just an
again,
idea
some of those are still
in the
talked
80s.
about now and
So,
are still being made now. Right?
yeah.
We'll get to some into that. So, but as
Yeah.
far as the overall, it was hard. We could not. You and I talked about it. We couldn't do just 4 films. It's nearly an impossible task.
I was trying to subcategory. Like, we had a whole
It's an
conversation.
impossible task. It's almost too much. So we decided, you know what, you'd love to more movies and do comedies, right? Because comedies were more prevalent back in those times, right? You don't get as many comedies now. And
Right.
the action sci-fi, because is of course Nerdsplaining is what we do, right?
Yeah.
A lot of other great films we're
Sure.
not going to mention who just didn't fit in either category. There's a lot of great films in the 80s, right? But we're going to focus on those two. And even that was hard. Because there was a lot of movies like, man.
I petitioned and Jose agreed because I was annoying him. He's like, fine, do an honorable mentions, but it's only 4. I was like,
Yeah, the Mount Rushmore is 4.
Like, but this is so
how
close.
it is. But, we got a lot of honorable mentions. And we'll start there. Now, we're not going to do it in any certain order. I'm just going to name a few. Well, you want to start with the comedies? You want to start with the action sci-fi stuff? Okay.
Let's start with the comedies. We'll pivot off sci-fi because we're nerds. We'll do sci-fi there, but we'll do the comedies up front. Kind of give you an idea. Let's see if based off our comedies, what people might think are sci-fi.
Because this is
be completely wrong.
So many good film these categories. You probably can ask 100 people, you're gonna get 100 different lists, right? I think so. There's gonna be some that should be equal in all lists. In my opinion, when I get to that, we have that, but yeah.
I'll let you know. There's going to be some movies that you find overlap, and it's only because I was like, well, technically both these movies are the same style of comedy, but they're so close, I got to put in an honorable mention one in the top 4, and others are just completely different versions that I was like, okay, this is why this goes right.
We do have some similarities here. So yeah, which that's a surprise.
Okay.
It's surprising because comedy is a little bit broader. So on the sci-fi, there's some that just, what we're going to talk about, and you have to mention it because it's the Mount Rushmore. If an alien comes down and wants to know what 4 movies to watch, these are the 4 that we're recommending on our own, right? So these have to be like top, best of the best.
Sure.
Whatever. So, but let's start with the comedies, right? So honorable mention, you had a few here. You had and I didn't have any of these on my list, but in terms of the actual list, but Three Amigos, I get it. Come on,
Three Amigos, man. Oh my God! Like I still quote that to this day. Eat a sweater. Like I still say that when it's cold.
Are you looking at? I mean, the peak powers of all 3, Chevy Chase, Martin Short, and Steve Martin. Although Steve Martin,
yeah. Before Chevy Chase became a full-on douchebag, he was killing it in this movie.
With Martin Short and only emerged in the building.
Listen, if you're watching Murders in the Building, this is kind of like the origin story.
They're retired near the
that.
Yeah. Top Secret. I love me some Top Secret. I didn't talk about that because
I feel it was one of those
you have on your list, which I can mention, but we'll wait. One Crazy Summer is another one you have. Yeah.
It really, it's close to that, and I feel like there's like 6 sequences in Top Secret that not enough people know about, and if they did, like if you have time, go to YouTube and write Top Secret, and then the sequence is the bookstore. That is to this day one of my favorite, funniest comedy scenes, and you don't get what's happening until the very end, and then it becomes brilliant. You're like, oh my God,
no, absolutely. For mine,
yeah.
I gotta go because I put them all on the same list. I had like Ferris Bueller's Days Off, Beverly Hills Cop. I had mentioned in there.
Great too. I almost put it, but like
it's not comedy. It kind of falls in both.
I'm gonna put it action. So I feel it needs a little more action. It is action comedy, but that's why I didn't put it in comedy. If it was comedy
National
action.
Lampoon's Vacation. I mean, come on. Had to that.
National Lampoon, dude. That and Fletch were also in the mix, and I couldn't commit myself to it.
Classic, yeah. So that's a great one in terms of
Fast
comedy.
Times.
That's what I had. I had a third list going on. This was on my third list. We said not to do it, right? Of like others, right? Because there's a lot. But I did have The Princess Bride. I'm not sure if it's a comedy or not, but I'm gonna mention it because I love The Princess Bride.
I would put it into
which is why I had my other list
is
that was on it, but I want to mention it because that's a great film.
Yeah. Because there was some sci-fi that I was looking at. I go, why is it sci-fi?
There's some that are mixed like that, absolutely.
And so
but
I did not
want to mention that. So those
yes,
are mine. In terms of some honorable mentions, there's always a few more. We can't mention all the
honorable mentions, but now let's get to
let's get to a list. So,
but now let's get to the list.
We'll do the ones that we have that we don't have in common, right? Because out of this list, we have 2 commonalities here. So with yours, you had the Blues Brothers on the Mount Rushmore. I love Blues. I
Blues
love
Brothers.
Blues Brothers.
Like
I
to
really
this
was hard
day,
to say that, but I do love Blues Brothers, so I get it. I get it.
look, to this day, there's no funnier movie that combines comedy and music and the greatest car chase scene of all time.
All fair points. All fair points.
I defy you. Like Ronin, amazing car chase scene, not as funny, very little music. So this is where I go
Listen,
for
was,
my comedy and my
Jim
car
Belushi at
chase
his
and my
short
music.
peak, because obviously he passed away a little after that. Dan
Yeah.
Aykroyd, of course.
Dan Aykroyd at his
Yeah,
at his thin bestest.
If,
So
you're a comedian. Maybe I might be overstating it. John Candy was in.
John
They
Candy
have the best collection of comedic talent. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overstating it. I don't know.
I will say it had the best. Well, here's the thing, it didn't have the best. It had the people who pioneered the standards of comedy that we do today. So there's people who are doing comedy today that exist because of what happened in the 80s. If it wasn't for those guys, I don't know who would be
Martin,
here.
Who's still around. Martin Short's still around. Chevy Chase,
Right.
of course, had his moments. Dan Aykroyd's great. We still see him. Bill Murray, Eddie Murphy. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. But that's, Jim Belushi, of course, before he died. The other one you had, speaking of Steve Martin, and this, I love this film. I kind of forgot about it. I wouldn't put it on the list, but I love this film. Most people haven't seen it, and that's Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. That was great. Michael Caine.
Listen.
Steve Martin.
Listen. That's why I put it, because it is an underdog of greatness that people who don't know about it, when they watch it, go, why have I never seen this movie before?
No, it really
that's how good this
and
movie
is.
is.
Tried to remake it. It was terrible. With the Anne Hathaway, and I forgot the woman's name. But no, it's just a great, it's not a buddy. Well, it's kind of a buddy film, but the two con artists competing, right? And the competition, they get con. I mean, the idea was great. It really was.
Look, I'll put it this way. If you loved A Fish Called Wanda, which is also fantastic, it almost got honorable mention out of me. You pivot a little harder, and you got Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and that's what makes it great.
Michael Caine's great, but he's a straight guy for the most part. Steve Martin is fantastic.
Steve Martin, when he plays the brother with the oh my god, just
it's so good. It's so good. It really is such a great underrated film. Not that people have seen it. So funny. I loved it. I've seen it. I think 2 years ago I put it on. Maybe less than that, but great film. That one I get. Yeah.
Still holds up, man.
Sure.
It's so good.
I can't hate either one of those choices.
Good.
Not mine personally, but I get it why you do it. The two that we had, and one doesn't surprise me. One kind of does. Well, maybe it shouldn't really. Let's talk about the first one, Ghostbusters. We both had on the list.
Once again, I talked about action comedy?
Correct.
This was a comedy action. Ghostbusters is comedy action.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop, action comedy.
Here we are again. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd. I mean, here we're talking about the same guys, right?
Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. That was so good. And it's still, if you think about it, it was 40 years ago, for Christ's sake, and we're still getting Ghostbusters films. Yeah. Right? I mean, come on.
Look, I'll put it this way. To give credit where credit's due, the guys from Red Letter Media put it best. The Ghostbusters is not a horror comedy. Ghostbusters is not an action comedy. Ghostbusters is a comedy about a bunch of guys starting a business. That's what it is. The ghosts happen to be the thing they're working in, but it's just a bunch of blue-collar guys starting a business. And that is the best way to describe this franchise, or at least this movie, because the first Ghostbusters is that, and it is perfection. That whole scene, when they shoot when they think the cleaning lady is a ghost, and oh, sorry, we thought you were somebody else. Or when you go to the elevator, he goes, we're gonna kill a rat. He's like, I'll take the other elevator, like that, all that, or turn on the elevator, the proton packs, and we've never tested it, and they scooch to the side.
I mean,
I'm like, all that's just so funny.
Come on,
Rick Moranis. Oh my god,
before he was Rick Moranis, I guess. This movie, you're right. It's almost like a perfect comedy. I won't say it's perfect. Nothing is perfect, but it's close to it as you can get. It's really close, and
it's really close though.
Even
it's
before
really close.
Those last two iterations of it, Ghostbusters was it had a brand, right? It's still in popular culture, right? People know Ghostbusters, right? They know the song. Who are you gonna call? It was just there. That's how good this movie is. 40 years later, we're still talking about it and singing its praises. Right. Exactly.
Every Halloween, it still gets played.
That's as classic you can get.
And listen, Forget comedy. Sigourney Weaver's in it. And this was like the second movie that made her. Aliens established her, and she got associated with Ghostbusters like on the same level. Like,
and the other one we both had was Airplane. I mean, come on. Okay, come on.
I mean, listen, we talked about Top Secret, and the only reason Top Secret got honorable mention is Airplane.
You know, we talk about video games, you know, genre defining. This defined the spoof comedy genre. This began it and defined it because there was a bunch of those shots. You know, Top Secret, Loaded Weapon, and even going into like the scary movie. You know,
Scary Movies, which by the way, Scary Movies was like a middle school version of what Airplane did, and Airplane was already doing middle school jokes.
The original,
so,
right? This is the one that started it all, and it's unfortunate we don't get many of those.
Yeah,
you know,
and they're nailing it.
I love Naked Gun, but that was all based off Airplane.
Yeah. By the way, there's a reboot of Naked Gun.
Exactly. So it's
coming out.
I hope it comes back. Cause you don't get a lot of spoof stuff, but this movie it's just, oh my god, it's just ridiculousness, but in such a great way. So many one-lines. Leslie Nielsen at the height of his deadpan to put him in there was
murder comedy.
His delivery is unmatched when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean,
yes, I'm serious, and don't call me Shirley. Oh my god, dude, that line to this day is a chuckler, dude.
Oh my god. Kareem, of course, Force fans was in this. I mean, there's so much good shit in this car. It was a Scraps the dog. I mean.
Everyone that hears him talk kills themselves because they hate hearing him talk.
I put this movie on within a year. My stepdaughter, right? Because we saw, we hadn't gotten to that genre yet. We saw Spaceballs a little before. She loves Spaceballs, and I was like,
sure.
Spaceballs.
Which way Spaceballs almost got honorable mention as well, but once again, I was like, of course, Airplane.
Mel Brooks is fantastic. But I was like, hey, it's like I was watching Airplane. You saw a quick trailer. It's like, it looks kind of funny. I was like, you remember Spaceballs? This is what basic comedy. So I was put on. She loved Airplane. That's showing you that it transcended time and age, right? Because here we are, and 40 years later, 40 some years later, and she's finding it funny, and she's at the time was 15, I guess.
I showed my daughter. My daughter's 15. I showed her and my son Airplane about 6-7 months ago. My daughter binged it for like a month straight. That was like her movie. Like she would come home and she would watch it, and she goes, "Okay, now I'm gonna do homework." Like she loved that movie.
Films are good for the time. They really are, and they don't hold up as well, right? Even some that I love don't hold as well. I'll admit.
Right.
But this one holds up because the comedy is timeless, and it really is. This is.
Even though the references are not as like, but you get what that's going on, and that's amazing. Like that's how it's timeless. It's not because it's happening now, but you get why it's happening.
Someone get it wrong. They're just so heavy reference to the time.
Yeah, it's very much like you'll get this because but only for the next 2 years, and after that, joke's dead.
This may be out of the four. I might put this number one. I think maybe just whatever, just speaking. But yeah, so your four. Ghostbusters, Blues Brothers, Airplane, Dirty Running Scoundrels. Mine, we already have Ghostbusters and Airplane. Have Coming to America, which I think may be Eddie Murphy's best. I think personally.
That's a good one.
Billy Scott.
Before he felt like, oh, I'll just do a bunch of fat characters. He was doing all the characters.
Sex with Chocolate. He was the barber guy. I mean,
to this day, my favorite Eddie Murphy in makeup joke is the old Jewish guy telling the joke. Waiter, there's my spoon. Where's the soup? Where's the spoon?
I mean, he was unrecognizable. He was great. He was doing Senior Hall when he was at his peak. Was in this, of course, the late great James Jones.
Yeah.
Of course, the Land of Zamunda. Dude, that movie is just so good. I love it. It's unfortunate that their remake was whatever.
It was a sequel boot. It was a sequel,
but different times, right? But that movie, I think that's his best in terms for me, and this is Eddie Murphy peak. That's peak Eddie Murphy. Peak.
Excuse me. I believe the movie you should talk about is The Golden Child.
Eddie.
Please.
Comedies, no doubt. There's no argument. The Trading Places, another great one. With of course Dan Aykroyd. Speaking of which, these names all just kind of recycled during these times, right? They were killing her. And
they were killing it, man.
Breakfast Club. It's
you know what that is as a coming of age comedy. That's a great one. That's a
the
great one.
standard bearer for these kind of films, right? It really was.
Yeah.
It really did. Like
It had heart.
it was
That's
a good,
the one
it was a good
thing.
comedy, but a
It had
better
heart.
film, if that makes sense, right? Because
Absolutely.
the Brad Pack and at their height of the powers, Marty Ringwald and Anthony Michael Thomas, is that his name? John Nelson, right? Anthony Michael Hall, John Nelson,
Anthony Michael Hall,
Sheedy. I mean, Estevez. I mean,
John Nelson.
This was the group back in the 80s, right? But this was John Hughes' best. It's so good, and it's funny because this one, why I put it on the list because it's so relevant now because the dressing is the same. It's not the same. The language is not the same in terms of the teenagers, but what they go through is exactly what they go through now. There's no difference, right? The anxiety, the sexual pressures, all that stuff that we all go through. And kids today, I showed it to my stepdaughter. I talked about this, and she's like, "Oh, you're not going to understand. We're going to listen. You've got to do nothing that we haven't gone through, right? Nothing's changed. It's all the same groupings and the nerds, right?
The setting is different,
right?
but the thing that's happening is the same.
Is exactly what I'm saying. That's how relevant that movie is. That's why it's so good. It's probably John Hughes' best, and he has a lot of good shit. And that's out. He was at his peak. Right?
Yeah.
What was that? He had the 16 Candles and Ferris Bueller we mentioned. A bunch with the Pretty in Pink. That was his time with Molly Ringwald was the it girl back in there. So that for me, I had to put on the list. It's so good. Yeah.
I get it. I was just going for straight comedy. You're going with a heart. Jose has more of a heart than I do.
So that's our list. So we both had Ghostbusters, both Airplane. I got Coming to America, Breakfast Club. You had, of course, Blues Brothers and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. All great choices, right? And this is hard. Like I said, you ask 10 people, you're gonna get 10 different lists. Airplane should be an every list, as far as I'm concerned, and maybe Ghostbusters.
You know, while we were just talking, I just realized History of the World Part 1 should have also been on the list or an honorable mention because that's a great.
Books. I mean, it's a lot.
There's so many.
It's hard to come
that's what I'm
up
saying,
with.
man.
Really
so
is.
many.
I used Breakfast Club for me because it had a little bit more. That's why I put in the list.
Right. Fair.
Airplane was just. Again, the standard bearer and Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters is relevant.
Standard, yeah.
Right?
Out
of all these four films, it's Ghostbusters the one that's
still
more
to this day.
than anything else, right? So I had to do that. Action, sci-fi, adventure. This was another tough one. Cuts had to be made.
See, and I'm going to tell you here,
you were definitely more unconventional,
really hard.
For sure.
I was doing more just straight as my consideration. Fair. Straight sci-fi with a point.
Sci-fi with interesting choices, definitely. And there's one that controversial for me of why I didn't put it on my list, which you have in yours. But let's start with some honorable mentions you had. My science project you had on there.
Oh my God! Listen, if you love stuff like a Monster Squad or there's a movie in my top 4 that's like the tone of it, which is like it feels low budget, but they do so much with so little. My Science Project is one of those fantastic, underrated, big ideas with a budget, and they made it work so good. I can't stress. And great synth 80s music to it. I mean, it's just so good, dude. If you've never seen it, My Science Project.
The Last Starfighter, another cool film.
Once again, if you like Last Starfighter, you're gonna love My Science Project. My Science Project and Last Starfighter are in the same sort of world feel where some of it's just like they did this how, and other stuff is like, oh, this is clearly a sign of the times. But the idea, what they were going for, is so good. I'm like, I don't care.
Absolutely,
go for it.
And that's one of the movies I is begging to get remade. It really is. Because it wasn't a popular film. There's already like where you can remake. Super easy.
Dude, there are dozens of like video essays on YouTube explaining why because the owner owns the rights and he feels this way, blah blah blah. It's a whole quagmire of things. But as soon as this dude dies, it's game on.
Like for me, Highlanders, those movies that begging for a remake, right? Just begging for a remake. Product of his time.
Highlanders,
which is fantasy.
Going to fantasy, by the way, which is why it's not
on my list. But either way,
okay.
And I had this also now. I mentioned RoboCop. I mean, come on, the RoboCop.
RoboCop.
So good.
RoboCop was so close to butting into that top 4, but at the end I couldn't. But like, listen, if you want to talk about AI and the merging of man and machine with the spectacle of hyper violence, while making a commentary about corporations affecting the world and police enforcement, like is law business? Is business can business determine what law is? So many ideas in this very simple action movie about a guy who got murdered, who's a cop who got murdered in the streets, and they put him in like a walking tank body to elevate him to the next level of law enforcement. There's so much commentary that pertains to society now, as did in the
No,
80s.
I love RoboCop.
It's
Sure.
fantastic.
I did have that.
And the reboot was not bad, but it
it was almost
didn't do what this movie
really
did.
Was. But it was great. The sequels not so
Yeah.
much, but whatever.
Yeah.
I still liked it because I was a young age.
And still to this day, whenever I find a deal, I'm like, I'll buy that for $1.
Really,
like
really
I say
good.
that. Yeah,
Some I had the Terminator as an honorable mention. The Thing was one I hated leaving off my list.
The Thing is awesome. I thought about it long and hard.
It's such a great horror sci-fi. It's a great film. That could have made my other list, but I left it off that one too. But that's a great film. Predator, I left off.
I will say the Thing for me is still in contention.
I mean,
when
if we
do
horror,
like I said, I was focusing like hard sci-fi.
I mean, I was really shocked if I'd put on the list. I mean, I haven't looked at all the horror films, but I didn't do that. We could, and maybe we can visit that.
Right.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there. The year's long.
Oh, of course. There's only so much you can do, right? So,
we'll talk about
I had the Predator. I love the Predator, and it's still relevant now. E.T. is another one I had on this.
Predator's great too.
It's sci-fi, fantasy. It's more fantasy, but
honorable mention.
Whatever,
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And The Fly was another one I really liked as well. Yeah.
The Fly. Listen, I thought of long and hard. But once again,
The Fly doesn't
I
fit
thought
the
about
category.
I'm not saying The Fly is going to be in my horror.
Correct.
But
no.
I was trying to go for more of a salient point as we'll go into my stuff.
Even the Thing I didn't put in there because it doesn't quite fit the category. It's just action sci-fi. Sci-fi and fantasy, it's not the same thing. In horror, it's not the same thing. So let's go to the list. The list, surprisingly enough, we had one, which I'm not surprised about. We had together. The other ones are all different. I'm gonna start with one of yours. We'll do yours list first, which I had as an honorable mention.
Okay.
Which when I first started doing the list, I put on the first movie I put on there. That popped in my head. Oh, for sure this one. But I changed my mind. I'll let you know why in a second. But Empire Strikes Back.
This is what we talked about it. I said, are we going to go for, should we not even do the most obvious ones? You're like, no, it's the Mount Rushmore.
Empire Strike is amazing. We all know this. The only reason
it's amazing.
The goodness of it, why I didn't put in the list is because it doesn't stand alone and on its own, right? And if an alien comes down and says the 4 movies to watch, they can't just watch Empire and get an ending and they're missing the beginning.
I think you can, but you're not going to get the full context out of it because...
Like and even the ending, it doesn't... What's happening, and it doesn't stand alone. That's the only reason I didn't have it, because quality-wise, like I said, I had it for a second, and I took it off. But I get it. Trust me,
I disagree. I feel like you can get out of it. You could watch that movie and never watch any other Star Wars and just have that snapshot in your mind movie. Like, I wonder what happens after. I wonder what happened before. You can still just appreciate that movie for what it is, and that's how good Empire is.
Great, but you still need to see the ending, because it's not like it's an ambiguous open in the ending. There's an ending there that
it's an ambiguous ending, and it's a bummer of an ending because you don't know what's going to happen.
It's a lot of stuff open, right?
Well, but you don't know if they're going to succeed. That's what makes it ambiguous. Because you just saw them fail, and so like, this is another failure? Are they doomed all to fail? That pondering question haunts you if you don't know the answer, which makes it such a great scandal as well.
It's the second part. It's the second part. It's like you're watching a show, you watch the first episode, and if you got 2 more, you say it was the greatest show I've ever seen. But you didn't even see how it finished. It's important. But the thing is, and you know there's more coming. And that's what I'm trying to say. Listen, Star Wars, right? But I know what's coming. But it's the best Star Wars film. It's a great film, and I get it.
Empire was my first Star Wars movie, and when I didn't know what Star Wars was, so for a long time I thought it was just this. And one day my mom saw me all sad. She's like, "Why are you sad?" I'm like, "I love this movie, but it ends so sad." And she's like, "Well, do you want to watch the other ones?" I'm like, "Other ones?"
It's such a great film. It's such a way above the original Star Wars. I know Star Wars has more of a landmark film, and I get it. It is. But Empire, they're talking about pure film. This is by far the best one. I don't think there's many argument there. Some people still think the first one. I disagree wholeheartedly. I don't. You can tell the direction is so much better in this film than the first one. It's not the acting.
Oh yeah,
by
absolutely,
far. Come on,
absolutely.
it's a fantastic, obviously, and
Yeah.
I get it. You know,
New Hope is good.
Agreed, 100%,
Empire's
100%.
great.
So let's go with the two that I don't have on the list. With those three, that was one of them. And I love this film. And I should have put it as an honorable mention. I forgot, but I did think about it. They Live. I love They Live. John Carpenter's masterpiece.
Listen,
Roddy Piper.
thinking about talking about The Thing, I was like, you know what, John Carpenter, The Thing hard. But if you want to talk about sci-fi that says something, especially today,
this is
They Live.
Yeah.
Is,
any movies be, oh my god.
What is
this
truth?
Is so begging to be remade. It's so relevant now. That movie's ahead of its time. It really is. But man, talk about a movie that's begging for a remake and will fit in perfectly with what's going on right now.
Right,
oh my god. Oh,
that They Live
really
is where it's at.
Alien story, and them, the misinformation, and who's really in control, all that stuff, which we talk about now. We hear all the time, right? But
yeah,
just in the frame set of science fiction with the aliens in this alien race that's living amongst us. Dude, it's so good. That great fight scene. The gritty fight scene.
Dude, yeah. South Park parodied that fight scene. Yeah. That's how good that fight scene is. Okay.
Roddy Piper, of course, the wrestler. I forgot the other guy's name.
And you want to talk about also a great ending that's also sad and open-ended because you don't know what's going to happen next. Their victory opens an entire can of worms of what could happen.
Expose who they are, what's going on. But no, it's just such an intelligent film. It's so and nobody saw this movie. It's so underrated, and it's not it's in the 80s, so it has a style. I get it, and it's not a lot of money behind it, so I get it. Which is what I'm saying. This movie could be remade today. Oh my god, it'll be just as good. I think because it's so relevant. It's like,
and they got to keep the line that infiltrated the popular vernacular, and people don't even know about it. I came here to do two things: chew gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of gum.
Again, John Carpenter's, his heyday was the 80s. This Big Trouble in China, Escape from New York, The Thing. We talked about Halloween. I mean, this guy was nailing it back then. He sucks ever since after that. But then, man, he was great. So that's a great. I can't argue that pick. I love that movie. The other one, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, Across the Eighth Dimension.
Dude, you want to talk about sci-fi? Like, they were doing multiverse before we even knew what a multiverse was. They were doing interdimensional before we were just kind of getting the idea of time travel. Buckaroo Banzai, aliens, interdimensions, inner space, outer space. It was doing music. Once again, you look at how I love Blues Brothers. The super scientists had their own rock band. Like, it's great. I love this movie. Kevin Smith was attached to do a reboot of it before, and guess who's in talks to be Buckaroo Banzai?
I can't think who could play him, but okay, I haven't heard that. Oh, Rick Keanu.
John Wick himself, Keanu Reeves, was going to be like, how great would that have been?
Like I said,
how great.
I like the film. I didn't think it was great. I thought it was a great idea, but the idea is great. But I get it.
I love this movie. Yeah. Love this.
It really is.
Because it's so weird and gross and dirty, and that's what reality science to me should be. It's like, it's not going to be smooth and clean like Star Wars or Back to the Future. It's going to be gross and weird. And why? Because it does. That's it. Okay. I love that.
So that's it. So that's your 4. So we'll save the last one when I get to it because we did share 1. I focus on the adventure. It was hard because so many good films, but these are the ones that just stood out to me and I still watch today and it's still relevant. The first one, arguably the greatest Christmas movie of all time, and that's Die Hard. Arguably one of the greatest.
That is a pretty great movie.
Right? This was one that changed the game in action. Right, it made the everyday guy the action hero.
But wait. Are we doing sci-fi?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay. So you did the whole thing. I just focused on sci-fi. I see. Okay.
Well,
I'm better than you. I just wanted to say. Okay.
Sci-fi action adventure. That's what I put on there. So I grouped them all together, and we can separate them by figure. We group together. But if it was going to be an action, I know your ass will put Die Hard in it. obviously, right? I mean, come on.
Oh yeah,
Come on,
absolutely.
like, that's
Not even. No, listen.
I guess.
No
But I mean,
complaints.
that's
A
just that's
nitpick.
classic, and that's we saw it over Christmas. Again, my stepdaughter hadn't seen it. It's like when Mike and not arguing, but discussion about because she saw an thing on TV about people arguing about the Die Hard, the Christmas movie. She's like, I don't think it's a Christmas movie. He's like, of course it's a Christmas movie. So my stepdaughter's hearing, she's like, now I gotta watch it, and I'll decide whether it's a Christmas movie. And she said it was a Christmas movie. Yes, score. But it's great action. I mean, come on, John McClane. I mean, shoot the glass. I mean, come on, Harry Potter guy. Rest in peace. I forgot his name.
Sure.
The other one,
Sure.
Rickman, right? Rickman?
Alan, no,
my bad.
Rick.
Okay. The other one, Raiders.
Alan Rickman. That's
which I know if we had an adventure one, come on, that's
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
one of the greatest adventure films ever made, in my opinion. Still the best. Well,
best thing to happen. Movie is that what happens to the Nazis in that movie is what I hope happens all the time.
Plus,
so
Harrison Ford peaking with Han Solo in this, and again, not that it was good, but we're still getting Indiana Jones movies. And video games, I heard the games are really great. I don't have an Xbox to play yet, but I heard the reviews have been great.
Games are
iconic. Right? Raiders, Indiana Jones is iconic. It is what it is. I think out of the original three, this is the best one. Right? You could argue Last Crusade in this. But this is a little better. More in the action-ish, sci-fi-ish. Aliens. Come on.
Aliens was a hard contender for me, man. I thought about it long and hard. I was like, it's gonna go there, it's gonna go there. But
it may be the best action sci-fi we have. Terminator 2 it's neck and neck.
Yeah.
It's close. Aliens
is
relevant.
Yeah.
Same
director, so it makes sense, right?
I mean, so going to Weaver, the action, the best Aliens films we got, in my opinion. People may argue the first Alien, but I've seen Alien recently. I just don't think it holds up as well as a horror film. But Aliens as an action film holds up very well, easily, and it's still relevant, right? Talk about a franchise, I know James Scott didn't start it, but we just got an Alien film last year, for Christ's sake, and we're going to get a TV show coming up. The greatest alien design in any film, as far as I'm concerned. I agree. H.R. Geiger killed it. Absolutely. Which came close to me in terms of design. And the last one, this is one we both had, and there's no surprise we have it, because this is the movie that should be, or other ones you can argue all till the cows come home, no doubt. If you're just pure action, Die Hard should be is on everyone's list. But Back to the Future, this is the one. If it would just strictly 80s films alone, all categories, I find it hard to believe. Right, correct. I couldn't see in a world where I wouldn't put this movie on there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. It checks off your sci-fi and your comedy because it is equal. It
Adventure.
is equal. You cannot have one without the other with this movie. It is 50-50 all across the board.
And this is a nearly flawless film. Yeah, exactly.
It's like Ghostbusters, like you said. It's as close to perfect as you're going to get.
I mean, come on, Marty McFly. I mean, this movie was so good. Like I said, this would have made any list in the 80s. I just...
Put it this way. Back to the Future does accidental incest better than Empire Strikes Back.
Facts. Without a doubt. There's no arguing there. We'll leave it at that. But no. And it's, and you know what's great about that? Talk about holding up. That movie holds up perfectly. It really does, despite the fact it took place in 85, 86. Michael J. Fox at the height of his powers.
Listen, they even featured it and talk about it in Stranger Things. Like it is that iconic for the decade. So
1.21 gigawatt. Doc.
Let's just call a spade. Anyone who thinks the Cybertruck is cool would have murdered somebody for a DeLorean. Like, just being honest, that's the original Tesla. All it is.
I love that car as a kid. Oh my god, I gotta get one of those. I love a toy car, that shit. But that movie is just, it's almost flawless, man. It's the score is fantastic, man. Everything really works. It's rare to get a film that good. It really is. I don't think I'm overstating it. Maybe I am.
Yeah.
You tell me. I mean, this is...
No, you're not. You're not.
I wouldn't say yes, but if you're talking about the last 40 years, films, Mount Rushmore, I don't know if I put it on there, but man, it'd be in strong contention.
Definitely top 10. Definitely top 10.
That's 40 years.
Definitely top 10.
Without a doubt. Maybe top 5. It's hard to get that. Looking at movies, I get it.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of good movies. But it is it is a
Oh no,
primary
absolutely.
contender.
Without a
Like,
doubt. For sure 80s. At any list, I don't care what anybody says. This has to be on there. This made the best movie of the 80s.
yeah,
I mean, and that's a bold statement.
yeah.
There's a lot of good shit. It's a lot of good shit in it. There's a lot of
It
good
is
shit.
because there's so many
That's what
great
I'm saying.
movies,
It's a
but
bold statement.
that's
I
how
get
good
it.
it
You
is.
know, I know it's
The logic in the movie makes total sense. Everything happens within that logic, and none of it is. You
right,
never
right.
walk out going, "Well, that didn't make sense," because everything is self-explanatory. The movie cannot work without its own logic, and it used that logic the
Right,
whole way
written,
through,
the
and it makes
setups
sense
and the
every time.
payoffs perfectly done. I mean, it really is such a
It's
tight
so
script. It's
tight.
one that
It's
sucked
so
when they
well
killed
done.
the logic of the whole series, unfortunately. But that's a different
Oh
story.
yeah. But that's what
Oh
I'm
no,
saying.
this
We're
is
not talking
original.
about. We're not talking about the franchise.
The
We're
original,
talking about this one.
and it's funny who they're gonna have. I forgot his name, Eric Stoltz. And I've seen that footage. I'm sure you've seen
Yeah.
it with his test screening, or I guess part of the footage that because he was making the movie and it said
Yeah.
it doesn't work. Yeah, man, they were so right. It doesn't work. Doesn't work.
So, listen, and I was going to tell you, as bad as the Flash movie
I like
was
Flash, yeah.
to people, we still liked it. One of the reasons why I liked the Flash movie was the leaning
Yeah.
on
I
Eric
mean, come
Stoltz
on.
is their Back
Come
to the
on.
Future. I'm like, oh, great. This world is already weird.
And
Let's
everyone's gonna know
go.
about that. But yeah, for sure, that one's in there, no doubt. So yeah, so it's funny that I mean, again, you want to focus more on sci-fi, and I get it. But yeah, so that's what we got: Die Hard, Back to the Future, Raiders, Aliens. You got Empire, They Live, Back to the Future, of course, and the Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai movie, which I'm sure no one knows. Talk about. Yeah.
Just like Scoundrels.
Yeah,
A lot of people may not know about it. It's
Airplane,
fantastic.
Blues Brothers, of course, Ghostbusters. And like I said, everyone's list is probably different for the most part. And particularly, the comedy is more subjective than anything else, I think, personally.
Yeah. But if you notice, on both our lists,
there's
a lot of comedy,
comedies.
a lot of movies that work with. They didn't have movies like a Die Hard, not a comedy, but really funny moments
I love the 80s
in the movie.
Good shit, man. They really do. It's
Yeah.
a lot of shit for it, and that stuff doesn't hold up. A lot of stuff does, man. These films, and it hits.
When it does,
like,
it does hard.
We mentioned The Thing and They Live. Oh, God, they need to remake that fucking movie, man. I don't understand why they haven't done it. I mean, whatever, but they need a good idea for it. The idea is there. You don't gotta change shit, but the actors and let it go. You can make the exact same movie.
Yeah.
Change the actors, update special effects, and I think it works because no one's seen it. So no one's gonna accept us.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, there it is, man. It's the 80s Mount Rushmore for those categories. We'll probably revisit it. We can probably do a straight up action, although we know Die Hard's gonna be in it, and maybe.
But you don't know what
So
my other three are going to be. So
eventually.
there's like an action. Will they do action like in a horror? Will they do horror
time,
too?
and then maybe do like the other. There's a lot of good films that don't fit in any of these categories, which we'll do that before we eventually. Wouldn't slow news days, and which could be next week. I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, it's always fun to have and discuss. So yeah, those who agree, don't agree, comment. And what are your Mount Rushmore? Let us know that stuff for sure.
Let us know.
I'm curious what people will have and all that, because I'm sure it's gonna be 1,000 different answers of people if you ask everybody. But that said, we end off with that. The nuggets for the week.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in the show. We appreciate all the love support you always give us. Don't forget to go here to YouTube and the Latin Nerd Network to like this show, Nerdsplaining. You can do the watch list, Thanos' Choice, much more shows as well. Don't forget to go to dangersquad.com. Check out the comic books coming out. Everyone who got into the Kickstarter will be making an announcement this weekend for people who are getting the digital copies, and all the physical copies are coming your way as well. We have not forgotten about you as well. Don't forget to pick up my album, Adorably Offensive, at ericdasilva.com, where you can listen to all the original audio episodes of this podcast as well. Guys, I've been Eric Da Silva. This has been Jose Romero. We have been Nerdsplaining. And if you don't know,